I have to thank the community again. I think that I could thank the community every day for the rest of our life, and it really wouldn't be adequate for what has been poured out to us. Every card is being read, every gift is opened. We have gotten numerous cards from schools for Levi and Eliana, and we're reading through each and every one of those. And I think that I believed before losing Micah that, that there were gifts that were too small to be worthy to give. And I have to say that in light of receiving so much generosity for him, that's totally changed my perspective. And one of my favorite gifts was receiving a small Ziploc baggie with a couple of quarters from a little girl in a school that I think is probably around the same age as Levi and Eliana, and that those kind of things are so precious to us. So I just want to thank you guys as a community and as a nation at large. I mean, we have received every postmark possible in the nation, from Georgia to Washington, New York, California, all the way across Texas. I mean, the agencies, individuals, everyone. I mean, it's just overwhelming. And every couple days, my brother-in-law Chris and my friend Kendra and I, we get together and we have card opening parties, and we open all the gifts and all the cards and all the checks and all of those things. And so I just want to acknowledge that you guys have been so faithful and humblingly generous to us. I also need to thank the sheriff's office. A couple days after Micah died, I was reading the newspaper and seeing articles about him and just kind of catching up, and I read for the first time that we were going to be losing our health insurance on March 1st, and I had no idea that we would lose that in light of his death. And quickly from that place learned that Sheriff Elder was working on that, and at this point now we have insurance that is covered for up to through the following year by the county and by the sheriff's office. And not only our health insurance is being looked at and taken care of, but Sheriff Elder is reviewing and transforming many policies to make sure that we and our family are cared for, and that, God forbid, anyone should be in our place in the future, but that there will be policies in place to make sure that they have their financial needs met. But I know that the community at large is concerned for our well-being, and so I wanted to take the opportunity to tell you kind of how we're doing, because I know that you're curious. So Eliana and Levi and I are forever changed. We were far from a perfect family, but we all loved each other very much, and we told each other that we loved one another all the time. Micah was the best dad, and he played with Eliana and Levi as long and often as possible. He was always taking them to the park, playing hours of football with Levi, and would take Eliana to coffee shops with a fresh sketch pad where they could both enjoy their love of art and connect in that way with creativity. Micah and I worked hard on a family culture of fun and connectedness, and every Friday night is family fun night, which usually consists of pizza and a movie or a board game. The Friday before Micah died, we were playing Scrabble Junior for the first time. We also made it a point to take the kids on dates separately and together, and on any given Saturday you might find us at a trampoline park, playing mini golf, or at a dollar movie. On Saturday, February 3rd, Micah took the twins to the Air Force Academy men's gymnastics meet while I attended a baby shower just for fun. That's the kind of dad he was. Not only was Micah a wonderful father, but he was an intentional and loving husband. Being a law enforcement officer is hard on marriages. The hours, the stress, the reality that each kiss goodbye may be your last. But Micah and I fought for each other and worked to meet one another's needs. Our last date together was having breakfast the Wednesday before he died. We spent time on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, after the party that we hosted, just talking and enjoying what a success that had been and the time with our family. And that was our last conversation, but it was a good picture of the beautiful simplicity and the commitment of our love together. We are still moving through life hour by hour, sometimes one breath at a time. We cry as a family together often, but we don't grieve like people without hope, because we know that Micah lives. Micah is in heaven, which is a very real place, and we are going to see him again. At Micah's funeral, I said that his death wasn't due to politics or guns or race, but that it's a heart problem. James 1:27 says, "Pure and genuine religion in the sight of God the Father means caring for the orphans and the widows in their distress, and refusing to let the world corrupt you. We are a nation divided in so many ideas and places, but I have seen Micah's death bring unity and bring the best out of your hearts as you have cared for me and my children as a widow and orphans. What Micah sowed into our community, you have poured right back out to us. I know many of you are familiar with the Wu homicide trial that recently commenced. And I have to tell you that when I heard of the verdict, that I had to publicly celebrate in the kitchen just 1 or 2 days after Micah had died, because Micah worked so hard on that case. He fought for that woman's children to have justice for their mother's death. I heard of a woman who recalls Micah investigating and being present for her DV case, and that he physically protected her from her aggressor and was one of the only men in her entire life to have ever shown her what the strength of a man should be on behalf of a woman, and that is protective and not to harm her. I've heard so many amazing, affirming stories about Micah since his death. And I am so grateful. But can I tell you that I wish that he had heard these stories while he lived? Micah was a courageous man and a hero, a man of integrity and honor, but Micah was human and he struggled with insecurity just like all of us do. He always asked himself if he was doing enough. Did his sacrifices make a difference? When I watched you from behind Micah's hearse, lining the streets and waving flags, you told me that he did matter. You brought your children in the snow to salute Micah on the way to his final resting place. You modeled honor and respect for Micah and the men and women who risk their lives every day for us. And I want to issue a challenge to you. And because I've seen you as a community respond so beautifully, I know you're going to receive this with open arms. If you've had a positive interaction with anyone in law enforcement, a police officer, a detective, a judge, anyone, would you find a way to get that affirmation to them? Micah took our culture war personally. He carried the anger towards the officers who have gotten a lot of media attention due to their failures. Micah carried that on his heart. Micah felt disregarded and dishonored by our community, even as he got up in the middle of the night to come and serve you in your darkest and most painful places. But you've shown me that there are seeds of honor and respect in our hearts. And so I'm challenging us to root and to grow those seeds. And I have a couple practical ideas that I think will help build that respect and honor for law enforcement. And one of the ways that we build respect and honor for law enforcement is through understanding and empathy, because if we don't know what people do, how can we really respect them? And so my first idea is that you would educate yourself on your rights as a citizen when you contact law enforcement. I think one of the misconceptions that we have, because in our culture, you know, everybody can have an opinion and we can all argue, and whatever point that is, we're allowed to have it anytime. And this is one of the times when you are contacted by a police officer who says you are under arrest, you don't actually have the right to argue. Your rights then are with the court and with your lawyer and with moving forward. And I think that educating yourself and educating your children on how we can interact with the police, I think that there's a lot of unnecessary conflict that makes that very unsafe for the public and for the officers. And I would love to see the safety of those interactions, of those initial interactions with law enforcement go up, because we understand already what our rights really are. My next idea is that I think that, you know, some of us, we're very good at armchair quarterbacking, right? We see a situation and we're like, I know what I would have done with that, and I know what they should have done with that. And so there is a training called reality-based training, or RBT, and what you do is you basically create a scenario, something like what the Planned Parenthood shooting would have been, and you fill the building with smoke and flashbangs and lights, and you put everybody in the gear, and they actually get to practice and go through this training and see what it would be like to make those life or death decisions in milliseconds when you don't have time to sit there and think through all of the rational possibilities. And so I would love to see an inter-office collaboration of a creation of that opportunity for the community. And I have to say that if that picks up and takes on that, I will be the first one to sign up, because that was something that Micah had to do for his training. And I have to admit that it sounded kind of like fun. So the last idea that I have is that everyone who would like to should take the opportunity to do a ride-along. there is something transformative when you sit beside a cop and you watch them go into strangers' homes and enforce the law with strength and grace and dignity, and do that on a daily basis. There's something that just really opens your eyes. I had the opportunity, like when you're a law enforcement wife, these are things you do for fun. For Micah's 32nd birthday, I did a ride-along with him when he was on patrol. And, as his wife, he would come home and he would tell me, this is what we did, and here's the case that I'm working on, and here are, the people that I'm interacting with. But going on a ride-along completely changed that for me. And it was, it opened my eyes to an empathy and a respect and an honor for him and what he did at a whole new level. And so I want to issue again the challenge: teach your children to respect authority, continue to join together to make a positive difference in our community and across the nation, caring for the widows and the orphans like Levi, Eliana, and myself. Find ways to encourage and affirm the men and women of law enforcement who are ready and willing to lay down their lives for us every day, just like Micah did. So I am open to your questions.
What's the number one piece of advice that's helped you through the past few weeks?
I would say the number one piece of advice would just be to live in the moment. It's really scary to think about a future without Micah. And so there's been most days where I really can't go an hour ahead of where I am. And to live in that moment and to take the grace and take the people that are surrounding me and the provision that's right there, that's how you keep breathing in and out.
How are your two children doing? If you were to express what they're feeling right now, what would you say?
Well, I wanted to share with you just what an amazing dad Micah was, and that is a hole that will not be filled. And just like all the time that he spent with them and how he invested in them, they're hurting. They're hurting. And they're doing the best that they can with the rest of our family, but they're living life hour by hour too.
How old are they?
7.
How do you explain to them? Do you explain to them what happened?
So we had some deaths of grandparents, Micah and I's grandparents, last summer and the summer before. And so we walked them through, a lot of the process in death. My grandmother went through hospice and they were there in the hospital and watched and those kind of things. And so they had a really good idea of what death was and what that meant. And so when I told them that Daddy was gone, that he wasn't living anymore, they're very capable of understanding that at a pretty articulate level.
How do you tell your kids?
So when I heard that Micah had, when I heard that he had been shot, I got a call from my brother-in-law who said, let me come and get you. And so we were waiting for Chris to come, not knowing. And then shortly after that, Under Sheriff Breister came and said, let me come and get you. And so they arrived within minutes of each other, and the kids got in the car with my brother and sister-in-law, and I got in the car with Under Sheriff Breister. And I'm grateful for that because it gave me 10 or 15 minutes to have those emotions, to have that response without the kiddos in the car. And then they were following shortly behind me and at the hospital. And so when they came in, I pulled them in on my lap and told them that Daddy wasn't alive anymore.
What were some emotions that came up when you drove by thousands of people on the side of the road?
I think I was familiar with Garrett Swayze's funeral. I had watched that a couple years ago, and so I had seen the funeral piece, and that was a funeral that Micah attended, and he loved the honor and the ceremony that's included in that. And so I had a little bit of an idea what a line of duty death would include, but not to the extent that it was. And so I had no idea that we would escort him in the casket everywhere he went, and that was a total surprise, and in a beautiful way. It was very honoring to him and humbling, and we had the kids on our laps, and Eliana made the comment. She said, "Mommy, seeing all these people honoring Daddy makes that just a little bit easier, makes my heart a little bit happier." And so we just felt blessed by the outpouring of the community.
one thing that you would want people at home to take away, what would you want them to take away from your husband's death?
You know, I think the thing that has really been settling with me is that tomorrow is not certain. You know, we live like it is, and we live like we're going to have that, and it's not. And so, you know, there's that song, Tim McGraw, Live Like You Were Dying. And I've always loved that song, and I've thought it, and I'm like, yes, I want to live like that. But when you lose someone precious to you, you really do think, you know, get in that picture, right? Say the thing that you love about that person. Tell them why they're special to you. Go on the vacation, do the crazy thing, dance in the kitchen, like live with abandon, because you're just not guaranteed that you're going to have another chance. And so I think that that's the thing that's really been penetrating in my heart, is just to really value every day.
Unfortunately, this has happened multiple times just since Micah's death already around the country. What would you say to those families just about what you've learned in the last few weeks?
Well, I would say that I'm so sorry. You know, I, you know, was very aware of the officer, I can't remember names, but the officer who, I think it was up in Aurora on New Year's Eve. Maybe somebody can help me. Parrish. That when Zach Parrish died, and you know, he has 2 young children, and just similar family situations, and Micah felt very impacted and empathetic to that, and I just my heart hurt. But the reality of it is that you kind of go, I can't think about that. I can't think about the reality that could be us. And then, you know, several weeks later it was, and I just sat there in the hospital and thought, I don't want to be in this club. This is a terrible club to be in. And so I just want to say to those wives and children that I'm so sorry, and our arms are around you. And I don't really have any advice for you, because we've been doing this for 3 weeks, and there's no expert in me on losing your husband in the line of duty. But our love and our prayers are definitely with you. You know, I didn't plan on saying this, but I think it's worth saying that we choose as our family to forgive the man who took Micah's life. And we offer that freely, and it is our gift, because we have been forgiven, that we forgive freely. And we don't hold bitterness or malice, though we are greatly aggrieved at Micah's loss. We are not, we're not going to hold on to that.
Is there anything the community can do for your family moving forward?
You know, I don't know what you guys have seen behind the scenes, but I lead the Moms Connect and Mothers of Preschoolers group at New Life Church, and that's a couple hundred mamas. And they have literally cooked for us, cleaned for us, run our errands, multiple times. And so, like, that's why I say I can't imagine doing this, you know, without that. I mean, like, the Till offered us like a month's worth of meals. I don't know what else we could possibly ask for. People have offered to pay for our children's sporting activities. We have an offer from an optometrist for free eye care from now until 2030. I mean, literally, like, every possible offer that you could think of. Someone came in, and we've just been having plumbing problems in the last couple of weeks, and they gave us a free toilet. I mean, like, I don't know what we could, thank you for asking, but literally the generosity, when I say that we are humbled, it has been mind-blowing. I think that we have the power to institute and to instigate that change. I think that it's easy to feel like, you know, that one person, that one family making that decision that they're going to honor authority in their family and teach their children about law enforcement doesn't matter, but it really does. Just like the little Ziploc baggie of 75 cents, those things have power. And like it takes one person beginning to make that change, to make a cultural revolution. And I think that, like you said, so many officers have died. Even I think 2 in Georgia died during Micah's funeral, if I have that correctly. And I think that we are getting to the place where we are saying it is not acceptable to assassinate our law enforcement, because those were ambushes, right? Like those were assassinations. And so I think that these deaths are bringing attention to a problem in such a way to cause people to actually desire to rise up and do something about it. So I want to say that yes, absolutely it can.
When you think about Micah, which I'm sure your family has done constantly in the last 3 weeks, what's the number one thing you miss about him and a memory that will always stand out to you?
You know, I miss so many things about Micah, and he was a multifaceted person. You know, we talk about Micah and I were total nerds. I mean, we both got our master's degrees together while the twins were, you know, from 1 to 4 years old. So if you can imagine the amount of stress in a household of getting 2 advanced degrees with tiny little people, and that we were committed to that. I mean, our conversations around Sunday lunch were around strategic leadership and theology. And I mean, just absolutely from A to Z. That was just how we connected, you know. And I was thinking about that. The family gets together on Sundays for lunch, our immediate family of like 14 people. And I was missing him and his 50%, you know, very intellectual comments and 50% total goofball jokes that only I got. And he was like, that was funny, right? Like, and I'm like, yes, babe, that was funny. You know, so I think I miss that. I miss my partner and my friend, you know, doing life with him.